Okay, so you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So the first question that I will go over is related with the supply and demand. Okay, so the very basic thing that we know about the supply and demand is basically, so we get the market equilibrium when supply and, in fact, where supply and demand intersects. Okay, so we can work either on graph. Okay, for the graph, so what we have is basically, so we have this demand curve and we have this supply curve, and we are looking for the intersection, or we can use the demand function and the supply function. Okay, so we have Q demand is equal to Q supply, and we find the equilibrium. Okay, so there are some questions, so which are somewhat tricky. Okay, and so just a second. A second, I'm sorry, so I'm trying to post a question here. So you can see this question, right? So we solved this question before in the class. I will go over it by changing some numbers, okay? But essentially, so it will be the same question. So in this question, we have three individuals, okay? So we have here three agents, and so basically three demanders and two suppliers. Okay, so we are given their inverse demand functions. Okay, and we are also given the supply functions. Okay, in the first part, okay, so before calculating the equilibrium, it is asking to find the aggregate demand and the aggregate supply. Okay, for the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Okay, forget about this question. Okay, so let's work on the graph, okay, with some very random examples. Okay, let's say that for the aggregate demand, let's say that we have two individuals, Okay, and the first one's demand function is like this, and the second one's demand function is like this. Okay, here is the quantity, here is the sub price. Okay, then here for to aggregate demand, okay, we need to focus on the extreme points. Okay, so what are those extreme points? Okay, so those points are the points where demand curves intersects with vertical and horizontal axis. Okay, so let's say that this intersection for the vertical axis is 10 and this point is 20. This maximum point that the dark blue one is 20 and this is 30. Okay. So these extreme points will help us a lot. Okay, so let's say that this is individual 1 and this is individual 2. So let me ask you the following question. For individual 1, what is the maximum price she would like to pay? What's the maximum price?
120.
It is 20, right? For individual 1. So it is 20. So it is this intersection, the extreme points, okay? And for individual 2, it is 10. Okay? So this will give us the following information, okay? If price is strictly greater than 20, okay, then nobody demands. Okay, for the aggregate demand, then we don't have any demand for price less than, so greater, strictly greater than 20. Okay, then if price is between 10 and 20, only individual 1 demands. Okay, if price is less than or equal to 20, sorry, let me write clear. If price is less than or equal to 10, then both demand. Okay, so what will be the maximum quantity that they will demand?
30.
So let's think about it. So when the price is 0, individual 1 is demanding 20 and individual 2 is demanding 30. So then the maximum amount that will be demanded is 50. Okay. So how this help us to draw the aggregate demand? Okay. For the aggregate demand, or let me draw it here. Okay, on a different graph. Okay. So they have no demand up until price 20. Okay. After that, we have the same demand curve as individual one. Okay. So when price is 10, then we are adding up both demand curves. Okay, so which means that for a given price, for every given price, they will demand, so their aggregate demand will be the summation of their individual demands. So which means that we will have a flatter curve. Okay, and we know exactly at which point that demand will intersect with the horizontal axis, and that point is 50. Okay, so this part is individual 1 plus individual 2. Okay, so in this question, so what we will do is basically we will try to just find this extreme points and try to which parts will be the individual 1 demand, individual 2 demand, or their total demand, or something like that. Okay, so let's turn back to this question. So we are given the demand, inverse demand functions. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is we need to convert this inverse demand function to demand function. So what is the inverse demand function for Aramis, or what is the demand function for Aramis? It is 10 minus p. The demand function for, sorry, this is Athos. Demand function for Porthos is 10 minus 2p, and the demand function for Aramis is 5 minus q. Okay, so what I do is I just take the q to the left hand side, and I take the p to the right hand side, and I just leave out q above. Okay.
Hocam aramisi olan içine yanlış yazdınız. 5
Evet,
eksik
fark ettim.
yapan.
T oldu. Teşekkürler.
Önemli değil.
Then I need to find the extreme points. Okay, so basically, so I will just look at the points where those demand curves intersect with the vertical axis. Okay, and the extreme points are just the ones, okay, where they have no demand. At what price level they will have no demand. Okay, so let me try to draw them. So let me use all different colors. Okay, for Atos, so I will use light blue. So when the price is 10, okay, Atos will have no demand. And the maximum amount that he will demand is 10. Okay, so which corresponds to when price is 0. So let's try to draw the curve for Pathos. Okay, so it will be dark blue. He will demand nothing, okay, when so when the price is 10 again, okay, sorry, when the price is 5, he will demand nothing, and the maximum amount that he will demand is also 10. Okay, and finally for Aramis, he will demand nothing when the price is 5, and the maximum amount that he will demand is, so let that be orange, okay, is 5. Okay. Then our aggregate demand, okay, will look like as follows. Okay, so I will throw it with yellow. Okay, so when the price is greater than aggregate demand is yellow, So when the price is greater than 10, okay, nobody demands. After that, okay, so we will have exactly the demand curve of the first individual, okay, so which is Atos, okay. It will be up until the price is 5, okay. After that, then everybody starts demanding, and the maximum amount of demand will be 20, okay, 10 from this guy, 5, okay, it will be 25, sorry. Okay, 10 from Atos, 10 from Partos, and Portos, and 5 from the Aramis. Okay, and the maximum amount that they will demand will be 24. Okay, so this will be the agreed demand curve. How do we do it by using the functions? Okay, it will be again easy. So when price is greater than 10, okay, so their aggregate demand is 0. When price is less than or equal to 10 but greater than 5, their aggregate demand will just come from Atos, okay, so which will be 10 minus P, and when the price is less than or equal to 5, their aggregate demand will come from as a summation of 3 of them, okay. And how do we sum them? So we just sum the right-hand sides of this equation. Okay, so just the right-hand side of the equation. It will be 10 minus P from the first individual, then 10 minus 2P from the second individual, and 5 minus P, which will be 25 minus 40. Okay, so this will be the aggregate demand. Okay. Sorunuz var mı? Do you have any question? Perfect. Then let's try to do the aggregate supply. Okay. We follow the same logic here for the aggregate supply. So let me paste the question here again to follow it easily. So we have two suppliers here. Okay, QR is equal to minus 2 plus 5, and QL is equal to minus 8 plus 2. Okay. Now the aggregate, so the extreme points will be the price levels where they don't supply. Okay. So if I want to draw this supply curve, for the first one, so let me use this light blue. Okay. Where does the supply curve intersect with the vertical axis? At which point the vertical axis and supply curve intersects? Right firm'ün bir şey supply etmesi için price'ın minimum ne olması lazım?
İki.
2. Evet, hani çok zor değil. Burada 2 olması lazım. So, because when the price is less than 2, the supply will be negative. Okay, so which means that it doesn't make sense. Okay, so in order to make a positive supply, the price should be at least 2. Then it will be something like this. Okay, I don't know the exact slope. So I know the exact slope of this curve, but I don't care at this point. Okay, what I care is the extreme points. What about the left firm? What will be the minimum price for the left firm to supply?
4 hocam.
It is 4. So let me draw it with this yellow one. Okay. This 4. So here they don't need to intersect. Okay, we don't care about it. Okay, so my drawing is bad here, so it may be misleading. So let me draw it. Okay.
Hocam bu çizgi düz mü olur yoksa hani böyle birazcık daha şey olması gerekmiyor mu? Düz mü artar?
Düz demekte bu straight line olması mı diyorsun?
Evet, straight line artıyor değil mi?
Straight line olması lazım. So for the sake of the simplicity, so in this lecture, okay, in this course, so we only cover the straight demand curves and straight supply curves. Okay. So because this is linear equation, it will be straight. Then we have these two demand curves. Okay, so this extreme point is 4. So what is important here is we need to understand what happens if price is less than 2. Do they supply? Do any of them supply?
No.
No. Okay, the supply will be 0. So when price is less than 4 but greater or equal to 2, only the right firm will supply. Okay, so which is minus 2 plus p. When supply is greater than 4, both firms will supply, and we have a supply curve of, I'm just adding up the right hand side again. Okay, it will be minus 10 plus 3p. Okay, so it will be the summation of the both supplies. Okay, so this will be my aggregate supply. Burada aggregate supply dikkat ettiğiniz gibi basamaklı bir fonksiyon oldu. Yani belirli bir fiyat P'den küçükse 0, P bilmem ne ile bilmem ne arasında ise sadece right firm. Okay. Eğer burasını yanlış yazdım tabii ki. Eğer price P4'ten yine yanlış. Kusura bakmayın. Doğru yazmıştım. Eğer price 4'ten büyükse de her ikisi supply ediyor. So this aggregate supply function is a stepwise supply function. Okay, for the price level less than 2, nobody supplies. Okay, when the price level is between 2 and 4, only the right firm supplies. Okay, and when the price level is greater than 4, so both of them supply. Okay, this is part A. Then let's do part B. Okay. So let me draw the aggregate supply and aggregate demand. Okay, so in part B, so the part B is simple, somewhat simple. Find the market equilibrium price and quantity when the only right Twix firm can sell Twix in the market. Okay. So how was our aggregate demand curve here? It is starting from 20. Starting from 20, it comes to 10. Okay. it becomes flatter and it intersects 50. Okay. And what is the right firm supply function? It is minus 2 plus p. So it is starting from 2 and it is an increasing function. Okay.
Hocam kuantitenin 25 olması gerekmiyor mu?
25, doğru. Thanks a lot. Okay. So it will either go this way, okay? My drawing might not be perfect here, but it might be this one, okay? Okay. So which means that, so we can either, so the supply curve can intersects with the upper portion of the demand curve, or lower portion of the demand curve. Okay. So from our drawing, we cannot be sure about so which portion is intersecting with which portion. Tamam mı? Şimdi burada bizim demand curve'ümüz sadece bir our supply curve, since we have only one supplier, okay, it will be a straight line, okay, it will not be a kinked line. But for the demand curve, we are looking for the aggregate demand, which we have 3 individuals, and we know that, so the slope of the demand curve changes when the price is 10, okay, less than 10, so we have the aggregate of 3 of them. When it is between 10 and 20, we have the demand for just one of them, okay? And what we are doing here is basically, we will check this possibility, okay? Demand curve and supply curve is intersecting with the upper portion, okay, when the price is greater than 10, then P should be greater than 10. If it intersects with the lower portion, P should be the equilibrium P, okay, P, let's say P star, should be less than 10. And we will just verify it, okay? So we will look at the intersection of the supply curve with the first portion, and we will check the price. If the price is greater than 10, then it is verified. Then we will check the intersection of the supply curve with the lower portion of the demand curve, and we will check whether the price is greater than 10, so sorry, less than 10. If the price is less than 10, then it's also verified. Okay. Burada iki tane hani şey yapıyoruz, bir assumption yapıyoruz, tamam mı? Emin değiliz. We are not sure whether it's intersecting this point A or in point B. We don't know. So we will check one by one, okay, by equalizing the supply equal to the first portion of this demand. Then we will equalize the supply to the second portion of the demand, and we will check whether the equilibrium price can be verified here. Okay. Burada verify dediğim, eğer A'da intersect ediyorsa benim bulacağım equilibrium price'ının ondan büyük olması lazım. B'de intersect ediyorsa the equilibrium price that I find needs to be less than 10. Okay, and let's do it. So we have the supply of, suppose,
Sorabilir miyim?
sort of.
A'daki intersect noktasına neden baktığımızı şöyle anlamadım. Sonuçta price ondan büyük olduğu zaman aggregate demandimiz 0 oluyor.
Yok. Aggregate demand price yanlış mı yaptım? Aggregate demand is 0 when the price is greater than 10. Sorry, 20.
Ama o örnekte üstte bizim A
Oh,
şıkkının
oh,
cevabı.
oh, oh, oh. I'm sorry. Thanks, Arthur. Of course, so this, I will just change the numbers. Thank you very much. This is 10 and 5. Okay, thank you very much. So then, this was your question, right?
Ha,
Okay. So the graphs misled me. We have these two options here. Okay, so we will check. So we will suppose. Okay, suppose supply and aggregate demand intersects at point A. Okay. So what is the equation for the supply? So which is QR is equal to Q aggregate demand. What is QR? It is minus 2 plus P. What is the aggregate demand for that portion of the demand? Okay, so when the price is between 10 and 5, it is 10 minus P. 10 minus P. And if you do the math here, so we will have 2P is equal to 10 and 12, okay, and P is equal to 6. So which is greater than 5, okay, so which means that this price is verified here, okay, so it is supporting the equilibrium. What will be the quantity level, corresponding quantity level? I will just plug in that value to either here to the aggregate demand or the supply, then I will have 4. Okay. Once you find a verified, okay, solution for one portion, that's it. Okay, you can just leave it like that. Okay, you don't need to check the other part of the solution. Okay, but just to make it sure, okay, just to be safe. So let me suppose that supply and aggregate demand intersect at point B. Okay, so I will use QR is equal to Q aggregate demand. It will be QR is the same. It is minus 2 plus P. The aggregate demand. Now I will take this portion. Okay, it is 25 minus 4. So if I do the math here, 5P is equal to 27 and P is equal to 27 over 5, which is greater than, which is 5.4, which is 5.4 and which is greater than 5. So this is not verified, okay? Because if they intersect at point B, okay, the price should be less than 4, okay? Then we make sure that they intersect at point A. Sorunuz var mı? Any question? Good. Let me solve another question. Okay. Now the question that I will be solving will be about the consumer choice. And for the consumer choice, so what we are doing is basically, so if our indifference curves are smooth, so which is an example is Cobb-Douglas in the utility functions, okay, and which are either in the following shape, okay, Q1, Q2 is equal to A times Q1 to alpha Q2 to beta, or it can be Q1, Q2 ln A plus alpha ln Q1 plus beta ln Q2. Okay, so both of them are representing the Cobb-Douglas utility function, which are smooth. Okay, something like this. So why do we care about smoothness here? Okay, so it means that it is differentiable at all points. Okay, and which will help us to use the marginal rate of substitution. Okay, so have slope at all points, and we can use the marginal rate of substitution, which is the marginal utility of good 1 divided by marginal utility of good 2. Okay, and what we also have is the budget line. Okay, and the slope of the budget line is minus P1 over P2. Okay, so the optimum will be found when we have the indifference curve and the budget line has the same slope. So which means that at equilibrium we have MRS is equal to P1 over P2. Okay, so this is true for the indifference curve, so which are smooth. Okay, so we can use MRS. But if the indifference curves are not, so and the indifference curve will be smooth if you have a utility function like this, okay, the product of the Q1 and Q2 with some powers, or as the summation of an ln functions. Okay, so those two functions are representing the same indifference. Okay, so one thing is basically, so here the budget line is straight. Okay, there is no kink. Okay, in fact we may have budget lines where we have price change here. Okay, so there is a kink here. This is Q1, this is Q2. Okay, and this kink follows from the following thing. Okay, let's say this is 5. Okay, here price decreases when you purchase more than the price of good 1, when you purchase more than 5 good 1. Okay, so the curve becomes flat. Okay, or it may be just the opposite. Okay, so it may be steeper here. Okay, so which does not make that much sense, but it may be the case. Price increases. Okay, so we may have some kind of a kinked okay, budget lines. And the question that I will be interested in is basically, if we have a king budget line like this, so up until one point, okay, the price of good one is higher, and it becomes lower after some point. Okay, this is our budget line. And we have this indifference, so this indifference. Okay, so these indifference curves may be tangent like that, okay, or it may be tangent like this, okay. So we are not sure about, so at which point, okay, we are not sure about at, let's say this is A, okay, and this is B, okay, we are not sure at which point indifference curve and budget line are tangent. Okay, we will try to solve this. How do we do that? Okay, so let me just give you a very simple example here. Okay, so let's say that our utility function is q1 to the 0.5 and q2 to the 0.5. Okay, we have two goods here. Price of good 2 is fixed and it is always 2, and price of good 1 is 4 if you consume, if q1 is less than 5, okay, and it decreases to 2 if q1 is greater or equal to 5. Okay, so each addition. Yani burada 6. ürünü aldığınızda, 5. ürünü aldığınızda 2 veriyorsunuz, 6. ürünü aldığınızda 2 veriyorsunuz ama ilk let me say that. İlk 5'ini aldığınızda ona 4 vermeniz gerekiyor. Tamam mı? Let your income is 40. Okay? And we will try to find the optimum bundle. So what we do here is we need to first draw the budget line, okay, for this specific example. And drawing the budget line is basically so pointing out the extreme points again, okay, so the extreme points will be corresponding to the maximum amount of good 2 and good 1 that I will consume, okay, and the point where the price is changing, okay, so those will be the important points, okay. What is the maximum amount of good 1 that so good 2 that I can consume? En fazla ne kadar good 2 konsüm edebilirim?
Right.
It will be 20, right? So it is 40 divided by 2. Then the another point that I need to be careful about is where the quantity is 5. Okay, for good one, because the price changes after that. And
O
what
zaman çok özür dilerim. Orada each edition dediniz ya Q1'in 5'ten büyük olma durumuna. O zaman o P2 mi olacak?
the price of good 2 is always constant. Okay, it doesn't change. Şimdi ben burada hani ne kadar ikinci ürünü alırsam alayım 5 tane ilk ürünü aldım diye. Onun her birine 4 dolar vereceğim. Altıncıyı aldığımda ilk 5'ine 4'er dolar veriyorum. Fakat altıncıya 2 dolar veriyorum. Eğer 7 tane alırsam ilk 5'ine 4'er dolar verdim. 20 dolar çıktı cebimden. Altıncı ve yedinciye 2'şer dolar vereceğim. O zaman 4 dolar daha çıkacak cebimden. Yanıtladın mı bu?
Yanıtladı ama benim demek istediğim hani P2 eşittir 2, P1 eşittir 4 yaptınız ya, onun altındaki o zaman P2 eşittir 2 olması gerekmiyor mu?
Yok, hani bu yeni price. Hani this is new price. Okay?
Tamam.
So we are always keeping this constant. Okay, so P2 is always 2. So there is a change in the price. Okay, so there is a threshold point here. Okay, after the threshold point, the price of coupon changes. Okay. Then what will be the maximum amount of coupon that I will consume?
15 hocam.
Okay, let's try to solve it. Let's see whether it's 15. Maximum amount of coupon. So in order to have this price, okay, I need to consume 4 with price of 20. Okay, with price of 5, sorry. So which means that I need to consume 20. Then the remaining is 40 minus 20. Okay, that is the remaining money. And for each this remaining money, I can consume each amount with a price of 2. And this will give me 10 extra. Okay, I have already consumed 5 and I have 10 more here. And as you mentioned, it will be 50. Okay. So what will be the amount of good 2 that I will consume? Okay. If I have consumed 5 units of good 1, let's try to find this point. Eğer 5 ünite bir aldıysam kaç ünite 2 konsume edebilirim? It is 10. Çok sınıf olmadı. Bunu biraz daha abartılı bir şekilde çizeceğim. Belli olsun diye. And this will be my budget line. Okay. So the slope of this one is minus P1 over P2, which is minus 4 over 2. The slope of this part is minus P1 prime. Okay, the new price divided by P2, which will be minus 2 over 2, which is minus 1. Okay, so as in the supply and demand, okay, so I know that my indifference curves are here, but I don't know whether it intersects here at point A or it intersects here at point B, okay, because my drawing cannot be perfect here, okay, and I will check one by one whether the equilibrium is point A or equilibrium is point B. The optimum point is A or optimum point is B, okay. And what I need to be careful about is if the equilibrium point is A, okay, then the amount of good one that I am consuming needs to be less than 5, and amount of good 2 that I am consuming is greater than 10. If the equilibrium point is B, then the amount of good 1 that I am consuming needs to be greater than 5, and the amount of good 2 that I am consuming needs to be less than 10. Okay, I will just check it. Okay, so I will basically equalize this to margin rate of substitution. I will equalize this to margin rate of substitution, and I will solve the problem. Okay, so what is the margin rate of substitution here? It is minus margin utility of good 1, which will be 0.5 times Q1 to the 0.5 minus 0.5 times Q2 to the 0.5 divided by 0.5 times Q1 to 0.5 times Q2 to minus 0.5. Okay, if you do the math here, it will be Q2 over Q1. Okay, suppose equilibrium is point A. The optimum is point A. Then what I am doing is I am equalizing margin rate of substitution to minus 2. I have already defined the margin rate of substitution as minus Q over Q1 minus Q2 over Q1 is equal to minus 2. Then I find Q2 is equal to what?
2Q1.
2Q1. Okay. And I know that, okay, this equilibrium point is under the first portion of this budget line. Okay. What is that first portion of the budget line? It is 4Q1 plus 2Q2 is equal to my income, which is 40. Okay. I will plug in this Q2 here. 4Q1 plus 2 times 2Q1 is equal to 40. And Q1 is equal to
5.
5. And Q2 is equal to, it should be 10, right?
10.
Which is basically this corner point. Okay, it is verifying. Okay, so it is not contradicting. Okay, then let's do the let's suppose that so it is point B. Okay, suppose optimum is point B. I will now have marginal rate of substitution is equal to minus 1. Minus Q2 over Q1 is equal to minus 1. Then Q2 is equal to Q1. Okay. But now the equation, the budget equation is 2Q1 plus 2Q2 is equal to 40. Instead of Q2, I will just plug in Q1 here. It is 40. Q1 is
10.
what is Q2? Q2 is also 10. Okay, so let me make it smaller. Is there a problem here? Bir problem var mı burada? Okay, so let's think about it again. Okay, here the equilibrium turns out to be here, which is out of our budget line. Yani burada 10 olması için Q1'ın, okay, Q2'yu da 10 olarak bulduk biz. So which means that so this cannot be an equilibrium. Okay, so this cannot be equilibrium. So our equilibrium is in fact just this one. Okay, so if this was, so in order to find an equilibrium, okay, which is supporting that the marginal rate of substitution is -1, I need to find Q2 less than 10, okay, and Q1 greater than 5. Okay, here Q1 is greater than 5, and Q2 is also, Q1 is 10, and Q2 is also 10. Okay, but this does not lie on the budget line. Okay, so which makes it not possible. Any question? Seçkin, senin sorun neydi?
Hocam ben çözdüğünüz ilk soruyu atmıştım size. Ama anladım yani zaten
Anladın
takıldığım
mı?
yerleri gördüm. Evet,
Tamam.
evet.
Tamam.
Onun C şıkkını lecture'da da çözmemişsiniz ama herhalde o zaman
Siz çözmeniz gerekiyor demek.
evet.
Tamam mı? There is nothing, sorry, for the first question, okay, for part C, it's not that complicated, okay, so basically you just need to think about the following, okay. So now we have the demand curve, okay, like this, some king demand curve. Okay, let's say that this is portion 1 and this is portion 2, and we have also a king supply, okay, like this. Okay, portion 1 and portion 2. Okay, so which means that either the supply, okay, curve and demand curve intersects at 1 and 1, or 1 and 2, 2 and 1, and 2 and 2. Okay, so all of those parts have different supply and demand equations, so you need to check one by one. Okay, so let me say that, okay, for the sake of the timing, okay, for your midterm, I may not ask something that require that much calculation. Okay, so let me give you a hint like that. Tamam, hani zamanın sınırlı olduğundan dolayı sınavda belki o kadar karışık bir şey sormayabilir. But for part A and part B, you need to understand it very well. Any other questions? No questions? Okay, so we will start your midterm on Friday, okay, at the regular time, and you will have planned off time, okay. So as I said, okay, the all those questions will be solved in almost in 60 minutes, okay. So you just need 60 minutes, but you will have 90 minutes. Please make sure that you have a application, okay, which can take the pictures and turn them to PDF. I will have, okay, I will have an officer, so which can turn it to the PDF, and basically then you need to submit the PDF files or a very well written photo files. Okay, if that is it, okay, I will stop recording, and I will share today's lecture to Google Drive and YouTube. Yes, and you need to have your cameras open for your exam. Okay. Sorunuz yoksa kaydı durduruyorum. Okay, so I will stop recording.
Teşekkürler hocam.